Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats, talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Today, we continue our comic book movie journey through film with the conclusion to a trilogy. Even if it's not the most satisfying of conclusions. X-Men: The Last Stand, originally released May 26, 2006, written by Simon Kinberg and Zach Penn, directed by Brett Ratner. I am Colton Robertson. I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. And man, I'm excited to talk this one, man. You know, we've talked several times about the movies you just blew the fuck up. You just knocked the shit out of. You watched all the fucking, you know, for you it was the Spider-Man 2, Revenge of the Sith. I was right there with you. But X-Men: The Last Stand, that was the other one. I fucked this movie up. I watched this all the time when I was younger, man. And I'll have a story for you later for why that is, probably initially, but, yeah, this is, I regard this, you know, the Spider-Man movies made me fall in love with Spider-Man. I think X-Men: The Last Stand made me fall in love with like superhero movies. I think like this is what made me want to be like, oh, I fuck with this. You know what I'm saying? Now obviously, this movie, as you grow up and you gain critical thought, you kind of discover that it might be a steaming pile of garbage, especially in the back half. In the back half.
The first half, though, pretty good.
Hey, I like the first half. For about 45 minutes there, I'm going, is this movie considered so bad?
I'd say,
and then
probably just when Professor X explodes, that's just kind of when everything goes a little downhill.
There's not a single thing after that I'd go, you know what? That's good. You know?
Yeah.
Including that. It's
crazy
all...
that the more you think of it, the more it doesn't make sense. I remember just watching, I'm like, oh wow, that ending was a little like meh, like whatever. And then like you know, we were texting afterwards. I'm like, man, wow, that really doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It's
like,
it's astounding, really. So what we have here, the merging of the Cure storyline and the Dark Phoenix storyline. Already two very, very large storylines. I think this movie, if I'm being for real, should have just been the Cure storyline. I think that's all it should have been. And then the Dark Phoenix story should have been its own thing entirely. To merge both these stories and at multiple points in the movie make both of those stories feel like the main thing, but then by the end they both feel like they've been sidelined. I don't even know how that's possible. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even sure how they made it so that there was no resolution. I feel like the kid gets taken from Alcatraz and then we don't see him again. The kid just got taken from Alcatraz. That's all we know.
For all we know, they did kill him. Like straight up, like, yeah, I mean, probably not.
No, they didn't. But, you know, Gene...
They could have, like, so many different directions they could have gone here. Like, the Dark Phoenix storyline to involve it is just a whole lot. But, I mean, like, just if the Cure's on the table, maybe this is, like, what awakens... Well, that's the thing. If Jean gets the Cure herself, is the Phoenix Force still inside of her? And is that a completely different thing?
The Phoenix Force is a separate entity from her mutation.
Yeah.
I think
So I guess it makes it
Phoenix,
more powerful for
it amplifies her mutation to be sure. But we've seen, as far as comic books are concerned, several characters possess the Phoenix Force. It's not, and obviously it starts with Jean, and Jean is the definitive version of the Phoenix. But like Echo has had the Phoenix in comic books, and that's not she's not a mutant, like it's not something that she's got, but she possessed the power of the Phoenix. And so it is interesting to think about, like, for me, if you want to make this movie as good as it could possibly be, there is not an ounce of the Dark Phoenix stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No. Like, maybe the thought of getting cured, maybe like the Phoenix Force could tell her, like, oh, if you get the cure, I'm out. Like, you're not going to have me anymore. You're going to be like way less powerful. I'm out of here. And like, maybe that's when she's like, oh no, fuck the cure. I'm staying, like, I'm me. Maybe it like starts to do something.
But the other thing, the only reason Jean's in this movie at all is because of the Dark Phoenix stuff. She dies at the end of X2.
Mm-hmm. And then even when she's brought back, it's just, I don't know. Scott's like, how? She's like, I don't know. Like, they don't bother to explain, It's just, you get the little Professor X just, explanation there for a little bit. And and that's pretty much all. But, yeah, it's just...
it's not like the Phoenix in and of itself is enough explanation for me. Like, that's why you're alive. Mm-hmm. It just takes so much more fleshing out than what they did with it in this one. I know that they've alluded to in the past couple movies, and it's one of those things that's kind of tough to talk about as a trilogy when we take movie by movie, release by release, instead of franchise by franchise. If we just talked X2 last week, it might be a little easier to talk about it coherently as a trilogy.
Yeah.
But they do a little bit to foreshadow that the Phoenix is something,
over the lake, like Alakai Lake, like there was the imagery there. Was that the very end of the movie?
That was at the end of X2, signifying that she's not dead; she will be back.
Yeah,
and that's cool. The thing for me is that when it came to comics, Jean, when she became the Phoenix, was not immediately the Dark Phoenix. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was able to control that power for a certain amount of time until she was manipulated into it taking her over, basically, in an attempt to protect her. Like, it's just kind of, it's a lazy version of the Dark Phoenix story. And therein, it becomes half-ass in the writing, and everything feels half-ass after that, I did go with Famke Johnson as Jean Grey for my performance. Yeah. And that's because she's the sole thing that makes her storyline watchable.
She does a good job. With what
she does a fantastic job.
Yeah. Well,
even when they give her absolutely nothing to work with for the last hour of the movie, she does a great job. But for those first 45 minutes, every scene she's in, she's electric in it, And there's what's crazy is the writing is fairly weak and the direction isn't very strong, and therein none of the performances stand out. Like, nothing's jumping out of the screen like, oh yeah, well that's the guy,
there wasn't a landslide win for really anybody. Like, how it was just, even like per character too. I'm like, man, I don't really know, like, who, like, scene wise too, like, kind of everything. There was just,
and then everything feels so flat about the movie, obviously they have their emotional moments where Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry like cry in each other's arms after Professor X dies, which is a moving scene, but it's entirely based on the idea that you have to, like, when I get emotional during that scene, it's because of the idea of what happened, not literally what happened. Like my relationship to the X-Men and what I know about them, thinking about Wolverine and Storm crying after Professor X has died, that's sad.
Yeah.
The movie's version of that isn't particularly moving. You know, like it's more just Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry's performance making me feel the things that I should feel in that moment, not necessarily the weight of the moment itself making me feel that way.
The only thing that was sort of sad about it was just how they went up to the chair and just like kneeled down in front of it and like we're looking at
even
it. Even
that, bruh, right before they did that, I'm thinking there's got to be a shot where they're showing the chair sitting there empty and them crying next to it. How do they go about doing that? And it was the most boring version of that shot possible. I was like, I don't even know what y'all are trying to do here.
And even Magneto sees him full view of it all happening. I guess Wolverine also sees it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But like Magneto's just like, all right, Jean, come with me. Like, you know, I guess he would be kind of he has to move on. He has to go on. But like, that was his
dog.
Dude. Like that, you know, like, I mean, like I expected something out of him. I don't know. Like
the characterization of Magneto in this movie is really, really iffy. It's back and forth a lot. There's a lot of things in it that I really, really enjoy. And there's a lot of things that just don't make any sense. That example is kind of a 50-50 one where I could see it being sort of like a self-preservation thing. Like it's the first time he's ever witnessed, he's been told there's a power out there somewhere and it's way stronger than you. You know, like, you don't stand a chance. And he doesn't really believe that until he watches her kill Professor X and he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, come here. It's like the only time you've ever seen Magneto scared, you know? So like, it's kind of, and that reason I kind of fuck with it. And there's a few things after Professor X's death with Magneto that I really enjoy too. Like whenever the Fire Boy is like, you know, you should have let me kill him and he's like, hey, shut the fuck up. You know, he's like, that dude did more for mutants than you could ever dream of, you know, like, I was like, you know, so they let that bleed through a little bit. But that's the thing. There's just so much going on that these moments that you're supposed to be able to sit with and are supposed to be able to explore immediately get pushed aside and we're just on to the next thing.
It was just really bang, 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 like just moving. The story was just moving. I mean, they had so much to accomplish there. Like up until Professor X's death, though, I mean, the pace was very nice. Like, and you could tell,
was really well paced. I thought until that point, and then after that,
really
they're like,
"This was supposed to be two movies. Like, this was just not supposed to be one movie." And yeah, I mean, they wanted to, you know, complete the trilogy and go out with a bang, you know, and everything. But then at the end of it all of it pretty much is unwritten, anyways. The only thing that I guess Jean is the only one who actually dies. I guess Scott too. But like, in that Scott's death is kind of like, it's kind of up in the, you know, you don't really see it happen, and it's just kind of like you see like her Dark Phoenix like start to come out a little bit, and you're like, oh shit, like what's about to go down, and then it just kind of goes off away, and then, you know, Wolverine talks to her for a little bit, and they're like, you know, don't let me kill anyone else, and you're like, oh okay, so she did
yeah.
You know, like that dude is dead, but like I don't know, I feel like that could have been a little more.
And that's another thing. Cyclops is it's one of the most important characters in X-Men, period, and he's dealt away with after 2 movies of being a top billed lead. And I know that's them being like, yeah, y'all don't even know what you're about to get into type shit, you know, like anybody's at risk sort of thing, you know, and that I can respect the balls on the storytelling, you know, like I can respect them being like, we're going to take a big fucking swing straight out of the gate. We're going to kill Cyclops, a dude who they make it clear has not been the same, has not been doing good. He's sadly, he's as good as dead, you know, for the X-Men. Like he just hasn't been the same since Jean's death. So they went ahead and literally killed him. And I like James Marsden a lot, and I've grown to really appreciate the character of Scott Summers, but this is just one of those examples where it's overwhelmingly clear that they were centering Wolverine through this trilogy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this movie, it pays off to a degree, you know, but they wanted the emotional crux of this movie to not be dependent on Wolverine competing with Scott, but for Wolverine to come to a conclusion that he has to say goodbye to Jean by himself, you know, because like the way this conflict ends, Scott doesn't let him do that. You know, like no matter, Scott doesn't have the wherewithal or the strength of will as far as this version of Scott is concerned to not let that happen. You know,
I mean, even when the moment comes, though, you see him cry there for a little bit, but then it's like, whoosh, back to the mansion. Happy ending, everything's okay.
Horrendous. What the fuck?
Yeah. Professor X, gone. Jean, gone. Scott, gone. And everyone's like, we did it. We succeeded. This couldn't have gone any better. And it's like, yeah.
Bro, I know that it's like... they have those moments where they're trying to make it clear that stuff's like, whenever Storm's like, no, the school won't shut down. I've got this. And I'm like, fuck yeah, Storm, you do got this. But like, I also knew you got this. Why the fuck is this supposed to be a moment? You know, like, he literally told you that he wanted you to take his spot. You probably already should have told them that you've got this. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way it felt like they tried to force a lot of moments. You know, and then in the moments that could have hit, they didn't let breathe.
Yeah.
And they didn't let them sit. So it was just like, it was.
Yeah. After watching this time, it seems to me that Charles knew he was kind of fucked. Like, he was like, oh, Jean's back. We don't know if it's the same Jean. She's going to know what I did to her. And if she finds out, see you later. Like, there's nothing I can do, you know, because it even tells Storm, like, yeah, you know, I think, you know, maybe he knew Scott was going to die too. I don't know. Like, he was just like, yeah, you know, Scott's all right, whatever, but he's changed, man. You really got to step in for me, Storm. And then, I don't know, goes to her house. Like, he fully accepted his death. Like, he just knew it was coming and knew that he couldn't do anything about it. And then now with the post-credit scene, you know, of him just transferring his consciousness into them. And, like, him literally, that's the lesson he's teaching the kids in the classroom, too, of, like, you know, what's the ethics of doing this and everything. And
he decided, it's cool!
Yeah, so it's like, who cares? Fuck that guy, you know? Like,
that guy's dead, basically.
Like, I could
be alive. Well, right? What's also, like, really... What's also like hilarious, like the continuity in this universe is obviously it's been strung, it's been ripped apart and taped back together and shredded, and then they tried to tape that back together. Like it's been destroyed several times. I actually had enough time to watch Days of Future Past after I watched X-Men: The Last Stand, which I've always kind of wanted to do that back to back because the conclusion of Days of Future Past is the happy ending you want for the X-Men. Like Wolverine gets back to his time, Jean's there, Scott's alive, everyone's there. Like everything worked out perfectly. And it does make it a wonderful sequel to this movie, you know. But Charles was transferred into the consciousness of another man. And in the future timeline, just Patrick Stewart, you know, it's just and in the future, you know, like it's not some other guy that they're saying is Charles. So like, and I get the choice there. Maybe. Obviously, you have Patrick Stewart. You're not gonna just give the role to some other fucking guy. But it's hilarious that they
everyone's head. He's in everyone's head, making them think that it looks like. But you know, he just chooses to look like Patrick Stewart.
That's
a
good way to go about it. I like.
But that. Yeah, that is fair. Like it would make more sense if you know it would be someone else. But are you really gonna let?
And like that's the thing is that like I don't have any beef with that choice. It's just I just like to point out the funny continuity stuff. You know, like because when it comes to comic books, the X-Men movie franchise might be the most comic accurate franchise ever, in that it just does whatever the fuck it wants, whenever the fuck it wants. Not necessarily comic accurate in that it's perfectly adapting the characters, but accurate to the medium of comic books, in that it's just like, you know what? Let's bring this guy in and let's fucking do this thing, you know, just because we can. And frankly, I respect that approach. You know, it's just that if you're going to take that approach, you got to do it right, which Days of Future Past, I'd say they did. X-Men The Last Stand, I'd say they didn't, you know, so like that's when those things you can look over them when it comes to a good movie with a good story versus this. And it had the bones. It like a lot.
The Cure storyline is just good enough on its own. Like, just the absolute chaos it would cause between humans and mutants is enough. And then the inter like mutant war that would happen as well. Like Magneto having his own group, and I mean, if Charles doesn't die, you know, or someone else leads that side of it, but like a huge civil war would break out. No need to throw in a Dark Phoenix story there, you know. Like I think it's a great storyline, but on its own, you know, when it has time to breathe and
yeah, it just for one, the character Jean Grey deserves to have that story fleshed out, and Famke Johnson in that role deserves to have it fleshed out. Like when it comes to the Dark Phoenix storyline, Jean Grey should be the main character.
Yeah,
you know, like that's just the case. And
you could
I'd
tell
say
they kind of tried to make her the main character in it a little bit.
Screen time for that,
but then then she's just kind of put off to the side.
She's kind of just the problem they have to figure out how to solve.
Exactly.
It's not even because when it comes to the Dark Phoenix, we do get to see these little flashes, and my favorite scene is one of those little flashes where Jean comes through. It's Logan and Jean's sexy time into Jean's meltdown where she officially breaks bad.
Heck yeah.
Now this is the story I've been wanting to tell. My 6-year-old ass had never experienced any sort of arousal, and I was watching this scene and I was like, oh,
something's
happening. Like that.
Yeah. Hey, I fully understand you there. I had a thing for redheads growing up. Like if I watched this as a kid, oh my god! Like, yeah, I didn't get into the X-Men movies until much later. Like, literally,
my 6-year-old brain was like, "What's happening? What's going on here? What? Like going, like pausing
off the little,
pausing the movie, going out of my room and going, "Hey, what the fuck is happening to me?" You know, like that sort of thing, you know, like that's what was happening in this moment the first time I watched this. So I kind of went into this going, I think that was going to get my favorite scene simply so I could tell the story of the first time I experienced sexual feelings.
Yeah, that's an important.
But then I was watching the movie, and I think it might genuinely be the best scene in the fucking movie.
That's the thing, man. I literally scrubbed through the movie like 5 times, and I'm like, what scene do I pick? And I'm like, well, action-wise, probably the end, you know, because even though it all just doesn't come to a resolution, it was still really cool, and the fight was cool. The bridge, getting pulled over was cool, and I'm like, man, but then like kind of goes against the whole point of me, like kind of trashing on the end of the movie, and I'm like, okay, so I can't pick that. And I'm going back, and I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe when Jean killed Professor X, because it like even seeing this movie one time. I've only seen, this is probably my second time watching it. It shocked the hell out of me. I'm like, wait a fucking minute. Like, he's fucking dead. I'm like, holy shit, they actually just killed him.
They just kept going for that shock value, man.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I'm going back and forth between like the killing of Professor X or the end. I think I'll go with killing Professor X because it was the most shock value to me. I remember the end quite.
I'll give this movie some credit in that the effects are fucking gnarly.
For 2006, man.
This goes, dude, is Professor X and Magneto at the beginning perhaps the best de-aging you've ever seen in your fucking life?
What with that? Like, you get, let's see, who was de-aged, like Hank, like in the MCU, I'm trying to think of people who were de-aged, like Samuel Jackson, probably doesn't even look as good as this. Well,
I was
Samuel L.
blown.
is pretty good, but like
Samuel
Hank,
L. is pretty good. Hank Pym's is like the MCU does a pretty good job of it.
when did Tron
But
Legacy come out? Yeah, 2010. That's 4 years after, and Jeff Bridges' DH looked like shit. Like Clue in that movie looked terrible compared to this. This looked like, I mean, it was only for one scene at the beginning, so they probably had a lot more time to spend on it. But like, it looked really good. Like,
I'm just thinking like a really recent example is Harrison Ford in Dial of Destiny. That de-aging, it looks really good, but it's veiled in darkness. You never really see his face. You get like brief glimpses of him, and he doesn't talk much.
And it is 2023 at this.
Well, it's 2023.
But yeah,
but I would say that this looked better than that.
Wow. Okay.
And Ian McKellen looks older in 2006 than Harrison Ford does now. So like, it was just kind of it melted my mind seeing it, and because it was to the point where I was like, am I being a dumbass? And is this just makeup? Like, is this just really, really fantastic makeup? Yeah. Because it's seamless. I can't tell at all that these men are 65 up, I can't tell that one bit. And so
this was the most expensive movie at the time that this came out. I don't know if this can be on IMDb.
I believe it.
$210 million. This was at the time the most expensive movie ever made.
I believe it. And I think it paid off in the visual effects. Like the visual effects in this movie are fucking awesome. Like it looks great.
The end there, when everyone starts just kind of like, I don't know, Jean Grey just has the Thanos snap built in, like they were literally fading away. That looked awesome. Like everyone
it's
just
gnarly.
Yeah. Like there wasn't really any effect that looked aged at all. Like not like, oh, this is definitely 2006. Like I never said that during this
Colossus looks fucking dope. Like the stunts when he like throws Wolverine in the air, like that should look fake. That doesn't look fake. The way the Beast is like bouncing around in the fight at the end and doing his like feline ass.
He was flying. Yeah. He was,
Dude, he was like that's the thing that I will give this movie some respect for, is that like, while I do think that like straight up artfully the way the movie looks is not as strong as the first two, the visual effects are some of the best I've ever seen in any superhero movie, period, which is astonishing for the year.
Yeah,
I think that paid off big time.
A completely different feel than like superhero movies have today. Like I'd rather go back to this, like kind of just not knowing what the heck's going to come, not having to think like, oh, has some grand implications on like the universe as a whole. It's just
I was thinking about that earlier today, bro. Like when I was thinking about like like my love for the X-Men franchise and the Spider-Man franchise when I was younger. It probably occurred to me like when I was playing with like action figures, being like, oh, what if these two? I never thought like, what if the X-Men and the Spider-Man like came together and they did like a big movie together? Like it never once occurred to me when I was younger, like where's Spider-Man during all of this? Like you
didn't need that. Like that's true. And now everyone's like, oh, Secret Wars, I can't wait for Tobey Maguire and Hugh Jackman Wolverine to fight together. And it's like, that's all we ever wanted. And it's like,
like times change and stuff. And I get that, like, that's something that you have the opportunity to actually be excited about now because it's happened and stuff's going in that direction. But like, for another example, now that you've seen like Guardians 3, hilarious that if somebody wants to watch Guardians of the Galaxy and just wants to watch that trilogy, that at the beginning of the third movie, something happened to one of the main characters and now she's a different person.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
you gotta watch Infinity War and Endgame for that to really make sense. Yeah, like
much to reckon with when it comes to an interconnected universe that it was these shitty little dumb movies like this with a terrible ending, I can go, well, hey, at least it doesn't affect anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just on its own. And the other movies that come after it are good. It's like, it's not like it ruined everything forever and they had to deal with all these things that, they did in this movie. No, like some of the movies that are coming up.
I was talking shit about the continuity stuff with the X-Men universe. This is actually one of the most impressively done retcons I've ever seen. X-Men Last Stand. The way that it's undone is kind of seamless with Days of Future Past. I'm like, fuck yeah, you went back in time, changed some shit. Now everything's different. Fuck yeah. I love that. That's simple. It's easy. And y'all did it in a satisfying way. Like, it's just so difficult to retcon stuff in a big universe. And
this one movie for The Last Stand, but like, on the other hand, it affects a whole lot more. But like, decisions in this movie that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Or like they just didn't matter. They cure Magneto, and he has to deal with that. Nope, he's fine. He still has his powers. No problem at all. I'll move this chess piece. What the fuck?
Professor X has transferred his consciousness into another body. No big deal. It's done.
That doesn't matter. The kid, that was the big whole crux of the movie. We don't fucking know where he is. He's probably just chilling at the mansion. Is he just in a secluded area because no one has their powers if they're around him? Can he turn it off?
Do they use the cure on him so that he can no longer leech?
Oh, whoa, that's nuts. Yeah, what would that? Maybe it would reverse the process even more. Maybe it just would send out a shockwave of. Yeah, I don't know. It was really interesting, but I don't know. It was really cool to see Hank go in his room and go in there for a second, have his hand, and he's contemplating ooh. This is kind of nice, maybe I would want this, but it goes against his whole, just where he's been and in his position as a senator, which is sick. And there's a few good things about the movie, I think. And Hank's, I was reading some of the comics, Astonishing X-Men. I started, I think I'm on the 3rd issue now. But it's sort of Wolverine's not the same after Jean. There's a lot of fighting through everyone, but then they're like, yeah, Hank just seems to be Hank. He just seems to be.
Oh my stars and garters.
Man, I don't know. I love Beast. Beast is just, he's so.
Oh, that's one of my favorite X-Men characters, man. He got my favorite character for the movie. I love Hank McCoy. And I love Kelsey. I think Kelsey Grammer as Hank McCoy might be amongst the most underrated comic book castings of all time. This dude's kind of knocking it out of the park for exactly what I would think of Beast like in my head. That when he delivers that, oh my stars and garters, I believe that this motherfucker would say that. You know what I'm saying? It's not something they just slid in there as a reference. He would say that shit.
I think my line is a Hank line. And it's at the end when they're fighting. And Wolverine's like, I thought you were a diplomat. And he's like, well, as Churchill once said, there comes a time when all men must. And then he just decks 2 guys. He's like, oh, you get the point. And he just goes back into, I don't know, just Beast had a lot of good lines in this one, actually.
Beast is a wonderful character in this, man. And I like that he has a history with the X-Men, but he
Yeah.
grew beyond it. Kind of he realized he had a greater potential to affect diplomacy, affect government. And that's pretty fucking cool. I love that character in general. And, as far as recent X-Men comics, this character has evolved quite a bit into a place that I'm not a huge fan. But not 80s, 90s, aughts, Beast, super fucking cool. I love that version of the character and or those versions of the character. And this movie, I think that it was finally, I was Beast. The Beast is one of the original members of the X-Men. It was him, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Bobby Drake, who is also very prominent in this movie, Iceman.
I don't know, Beast was handled really well. I think he on my initial after I was done, I'm like, yeah, Famke Janssen, probably the performance, Beast, probably the character, and you're like, well, those are both mine. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll spread the love a little bit where it is, and so I think performance wise, I just love I think the constant in all these X-Men movies is Magneto and Ian McKellen.
Oh yeah,
character wise, maybe not the best in this one. but his performance, I mean, he just always delivers as Magneto. And I don't know, I love him as Magneto always. Both Ian McKellen and oh my god, I
Short.
think no, young Magneto.
James
Fassbender.
McAvoy.
Or
That's Professor X. Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender. Both of them. Like I don't know. I think they knock the character out of the park every time.
They do. Yeah.
They're on screen. And I don't know. I just love like whenever he's up on TV and he's like, "Your cities will not be safe. Your streets will not be safe. You will not be safe." You know, like he's just I don't know.
Oh, he's just a wonderful supervillain, man. Like Ian McKellen brings that character to life. Like that's one of the best comic book castings I've ever seen in my life, and the fact that they were able to match it with Fassbender later is an astonishing ability. You know, like because Magneto gets my line with ease.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Well,
for one, he'd already delivered some fucking bars right before it, where he's like, it never starts that way. You know, he's like, you never see it coming. It just kind of happens. And then, you know, she's like, "Oh, you're a mutant. Where's your mark?" And he goes, "I have been marked once, my dear, and let me assure you, no needle shall touch my skin again." Shut her up.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, damn." Yeah, she's like, "Oh, shit, man, my bad, dude."
I didn't realize, man. That shit. Oh, man.
Ooh, you know, that scene might actually be the scene. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, like whenever he's just kind of sitting in the shadows, just like the mutant gathering. Hall. Yeah, he's just sitting back there, and they have that one dude that's up there, like, "Oh, what do we should come together, make a committee,
we organize a committee,
government, and talk to the government." And Magneto's like, "All right, dude, let me just show you why that's all stupid. And now that I'm here, let's see all the talent that's here. Who can I use?" You know, he's just like, "Who's gonna be good for my cause? Oh, you can detect mutants and shit? All right, find one for me in specific." Yeah, one thing I was kind of a little confused about was how quickly he dismissed Mystique. Like, I mean, she was cured, and he was just like,
"That's another example of the characterization I'm not a huge fan of."
Like,
because it's not even her fault. She sacrificed her mutant powers for him.
Literally, like, jumped in front of him to save him, and it's like, well, you're no longer one of us. Deuces, Mystique. Yeah, like, forget all of our history.
I think they just, like, I don't even know what the motive behind that choice is. It's just an all-around dumbass move. But the whole mutant town hall scene,
narc on him. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no. I might actually change that to my scene. Actually.
I think that's good. The mutant organizer, like, "This cure is voluntary. Nobody is talking about extermination." And then he goes, "No one ever talks about it.
Yeah.
They just do it. And you go on with your lives, ignoring the signs all around you. And then one day, when the air is still and the night is fallen, they come for you. It's only then that you realize, while you were talking about organizing in committees, the extermination has already begun. Make no mistake, my brothers, they will draw first blood. They will force their cure upon us. The only question is, will my brotherhood and I fight, or wait for the inevitable genocide? Who will you stand with, the humans or us?" Like, I'm gonna follow this guy. He's got it figured out, bruh.
And he's totally right. When he goes to save Mystique, he's like, "Oh, voluntary." When he picks up the gun, he's like, "Doesn't seem very voluntary to me," you know. And the dismissal of Mystique was a little off, but like, I don't know, it was pretty sick seeing like
the scene that followed her being turned to a human when Hank goes and talks to, I think, the president, and is like, "Yo, what happened to this being? Like, we did not talk about weaponizing this shit."
He's like, "What am I here for? Like, this is obviously going on behind my back. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I gotta go with my friends." And like, I gotta go. And I'm like, God, Hank, man, he really deserves the character for this one. I'm glad he's getting it for you, because I don't know, he very consistent throughout the whole movie. Like, the whole time he was him. I ended up going with Wolverine, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine for this one, and
can't go wrong.
They always kind of center the story around him. It seems like, I mean, it is Hugh Jackman. So
why would you not?
Quite the talent I would have liked to sit, with him, like Gene dead right there a little bit longer, having to see like him like deal with that for a little longer. That's all right. Maybe Professor X's death a little longer. Like even when he goes up to Charles's grave and he's looking at him, it's interrupted by Gene being like, Logan, I'm in the woods. Come get me.
Yeah,
And it's like, yeah, you can't even really like, there's not really any time to sit with like the emotional parts of the movie. But I don't know. I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and every time I watch these movies, I don't know. I still haven't seen Origins Wolverine, so maybe my mind will change. But I feel like another constant.
Hey, that's just not his fault. That one's not his fault.
Okay. Another constant like Magneto is Wolverine in all these movies.
Absolutely. And I do enjoy what they do with that character in this movie, the way that he's kind of, I think they kind of explore the evolution of who he's been for this trilogy really, really effectively in this movie. They talk about how Storm needs to, rise up, take the lead. You're going to be the next teacher. But when it comes to that final battle, it's Wolverine who's leading the team. And he's the one who's like, hey, like whenever Bobby's like, it's 6 of us, Yeah. Like, and he's like, yep, there's only 6 of us, but Scott is dead. Charles is dead. We can't let them die in vain. This is what we're about. This is what we do. And Bobby's like, fuck yeah, it is. Okay, I'm in. Like all of them are like, hell yeah, I like it. There's a lot to like about the movie as far as the just sheer comic bookiness of it is a very, very fun. It's a super fun time. Like I love the danger room sequence at the beginning. I love that part whenever, Colossus, he's like, throw me. And that's the payoff at the end.
Yeah. We're the team, Logan. Come on. He's like, all right, well, let me just show you how it's done real quick.
He's like sitting there. He like lights a cigar while he's fighting. And he's like,
that was my last cigar. Yeah. And he's all pissed. And I'm like, at first I didn't know it was in the danger room at all. Like whenever I was watching this again, I'm like, oh shit, what are we jumping into here? I'm like, man, this movie gets off going. And then whenever it's obviously just training, I'm like, okay, makes a lot more sense here. But the payoff at the end, and he's like, no, we work as a team. And then Storm gives him the best defense is a good offense, or whatever.
Yeah. Or,
hey,
is it the other way around?
Yeah. Colossal throws him. It doesn't work as well this time because he is just made of metal. And I love like,
but that was the plan.
Yeah, like I love everyone always is like Avengers versus the X-Men. It's like Magneto can just crush like half of the Avengers. Like Iron Tony is done. Like I mean, just it crushed into a little ball so fast.
Cap shield, fuck.
Boom. Yeah, literally could just use it as his own little, just cutting everyone's heads off if he wants. Like it's like Magneto is just, I don't know, it's sick. A dude can move the Earth if he wants. He learned that late. Like that. I mean, there's metal down there, metal everywhere. But he, even at the last battle, like he's like, he maybe called them humans or like Homo sapiens and their guns or in their weapons, and he tries. And he's like, humans, they've learned, and he's treated it as just like a chess match. He's like, the pawns go first, and he's like, yeah, that's why the pawns go first,
and like. There's just too much of a willingness to sacrifice his own kind for me to respect this adaptation of Magneto. I think the film kind of ideologically collapses in on itself with The Cure. Like, The Cure had the bones to be a fantastic storyline, with Magneto being like, you absolutely cannot take this cure. Do not sacrifice your mutanthood or humanhood. Do not do that. And then the X-Men being kind of like, hey, man. Like when Wolverine talks to Rogue, another one of my favorite scenes where he's like, if you want to do this, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And she's like, shouldn't you be telling me not to? He's like, hey man, I'm not your dad, I'm your friend. If that's what you want to do, you do that. I support you, but make sure it's for the right reasons. Like, and that's the X-Men stance on it, is like, you get to choose. And then Magneto's like, if they get in your way, use the cure on them. And the X-Men choose for Magneto to take away his powers. And it's like, wait a minute. What are we doing here? It's just, it really fumbles the bag ideologically. Like they just really, really do a bad job with the ending.
I guess they just knew that if they stabbed him with 4 cures, that it would cancel out and that it wouldn't actually work. Or they used some dummy cures that they knew weren't real, just to mess with his mind. He was like, "Oh fuck, I'm nobody anymore, so this battle's done." But yeah, it's like, I don't know. He's treated as a chess match and everything, and it's like he just has Jean just there the whole time, just standing there, not doing anything.
All she does for the last half of the movie is just fucking stand there.
That's it. Like even in the woods, they have their weapons, we have ours. It cuts to Jean.
Even the Dark Phoenix. The Dark Phoenix isn't a stoic villain who was just all of a sudden going to be like, "Yeah, Magneto, you seem dope. I'm going to follow you for a little bit." No. That's not at all what the Dark Phoenix is like. The Dark Phoenix speaks. It's not like it's just some fucking stoic being that doesn't say words and is just like, "I fuck shit up. That's all I do."
Yeah. And like Logan comes in, like, Jean, you have to come back. I'll come back home. And Magneto's like, well, she's here voluntarily. She's here on her own. She can, whatever. And like she almost literally cures Magneto before they do. She's like, "Oh, well, shit. Let
See, and like that's an example of something that I would not say that collapses itself in ideologically. If she's the one who does that, that's just the Dark Phoenix doing some Dark Phoenix shit. It's wreaking havoc. It's causing chaos. Fuck it. But for them to, and they've beat Magneto before, bruh. Like it's not like the only way is to take away the thing that y'all say he has the choice to have. It's just a bad way to go about it, I think. And I will say, when it came to that end, I do love just the once Magneto's powers have been taken away, the brief moment where Jean is destroying shit and Wolverine has to stop her. That little scene, that's really good. I like that a lot. That little bit whenever they all fire at the same time at Jean, that's my favorite shot. When she has her Matrix moment where she just stops everything right where it's at. And then like just disintegrates everything. Like, man, raises all the water up in the air, like just doing gnarly shit. Again, the effects fucking brilliant. The way Wolverine's suit like fades away and you see his skin melt.
You see he's like adamantium for a little bit, like a skeleton. That was really sick.
Shit's really cool, And I've always loved the scene where he's forced to kill Jean. Like whenever she's like, "Please," and then he does it and she goes, "Thank you."
Yeah.
That shit hurt.
Yeah. She says, "Save me," I think is like what she says. And like, or like the part before where she's like, "You really gonna do it for them?" And he's like, "No, I'm doing it for you. Like, this is for you." You have just that moment between the two of them and Logan being like, "Nah, I'm the only one who can withstand this. Like, get everyone else out of here. Go, get away. I know it needs to be done." It's like, yeah, that scene is done pretty well.
Oh yeah.
It does give me my shot when Magneto takes the Golden Gate Bridge. He does drop it, which his whole army is on it at the time when he drops it. So like, I maybe told him it was coming, but like whatever. It does give me my favorite shot though when he's just floating above it all.
Oh yeah,
and like it just drops and he's like, "Here I am, let's go." Like
the physics of that is also quite funny. Pretty heavy bridge, not being held up by anything in the middle.
He's just holding it up the whole battle.
Yeah,
and I wonder if the bridge is long enough to even stretch to Alcatraz in the first place. I would imagine so. It's a pretty long bridge. Like I've never been to San Francisco,
but to perfectly. No, and that's the thing is that this isn't like criticism. It's just funny observations is all. Like I do not give a shit. In fact, I invite it. I want shit to be simple like this. Fuck the physics of it. I don't care. But the fact that he took the exact amount of bridge he needed to transfer it over, because like it's not even the whole bridge. I don't think like he cuts it off at a certain point, and it drops it onto Alcatraz, drops it on the mainland, and
It's
and that's
perfect.
just it. It's perfect. It's a perfect fit.
It is. The Golden Gate Bridge is longer than the distance from Alcatraz. So from the Alcatraz to shore is 1.25 miles, and the Golden Gate Bridge is around 1.7. So yeah, there is enough there. It doesn't really make sense how it's standing up, but fuck it. Who cares? He's Magneto, so he can.
And that's the thing. I know. It's just funny observations. I don't give a shit if they do shit like that.
There were a lot of those moments though, like in the movie, that were kind of like, wait a minute, is that really?
There is a moment before the final fight, after he drops the bridge. It is daytime when he drops the bridge. When they march onto Alcatraz, it is night. Just like that. It just happened. And I think that's fucking hilarious. You know, like, it was, it happened so quick. You literally watch like, and you can tell they're trying to portray like the sun setting, like it does get slowly darker, but like it takes like 30 seconds. Like that sun sets. It was day, the sun sets, it's night. And I just thought it was so fucking funny.
Another moment that I'm remembering, kind of like, oh, wait a minute, that's not probably right, is whenever Professor X, Magneto going into Jean's house, going to talk to her, and Magneto's like, nobody in, can't let anybody in. Wolverine starts to run at Juggernaut. The first thing Juggernaut does is throw Wolverine into the house. I mean, he literally throws him into the house, which I thought was just hilarious. But like there were a few moments like that where I'm like, oh, that kind of doesn't make any sense, but fuck it. I'm in for the campiness and all that, and like whenever the house is raising off of the ground, and all of the people go up too, it's either that Jean is just lifting everything up, but like they should really be pushed against the floor.
They should be floored. Yeah,
it's what Jean's doing her thing. She can really do whatever the fuck she wants. So physics isn't really applied to any of these situations, but I think it's not anything that makes
she's lifting everything, and that's what we're supposed to.
The furniture and everything.
No, it is funny. The question had occurred to me. I was like, that's not how things would work.
It doesn't make me hate the movie
in theory
anymore.
Be able to just stand. But it is what it is. I will say, and I want to give this a little bit. I want to give a few scenes a little more love. I do, like I said at the beginning, I love the beginning scene where they go and visit young Jean. I think that's a really great way to set up Magneto's relationship to Professor X as well. Like kind of, when they were younger, they were down, they were homies, they were like, this kind of lays the groundwork for what like First Class eventually kind of follows through on, where they were down with each other. And then they kind of just went separate ways. But then when they're talking to Jean, and Professor X does the thing where he talks to them in their mind and is like, "Hey, you're not as different as you thought," And then she's like, "You're nothing like me." And then so she's already displayed she has the capacity for what Professor X can do, and then she does what Magneto has the capacity to do, and Magneto's like, oh, I fucking like her, dog. I just absolutely love that scene. Like, I'd never really considered that she kind of is both of them put together,
but even stronger,
even more powerful. Yeah,
like Magneto only metal. She could do it with whatever.
Yeah,
like literally anything, and like anything she wants to happen can just happen, pretty much. And the only reason she couldn't before is because Professor X was like, we'll just make you forget about that, just we'll put some psychic blocks on and we won't let you really explore that. And then, Jean even being like, Logan, you don't think he's in your head either? I feel like they could have maybe dove into that a little bit more. He kind of brushed it off like it was kind of nothing. I guess she was kind of going crazy mode at the time. So
yeah, she was. And Logan, like, that's another thing they've explored a lot, is that Logan's grown to trust Charles kind of unquestioningly. So like I always kind of appreciated that Logan's faith in Charles doesn't really waver. He's just always like, that's my man, you know. He brought me peace in the toughest time in my life. I am forever in his debt, and that's kind of how Wolverine goes about things. But I do want to bring it back to my favorite scene, the sexy time into Jean's meltdown. Because I know that I told the story about the sexy time, but it's really what's after that makes it the best scene. Whenever Logan's like, wait a fucking minute. No, this is just not what you're like. There's no way this is actually happening, you know, like it's everything I've ever wanted, but there's no way you're being for real right now. Yeah. Just the way he like realizes in that moment that there's something very not okay. And it's Famke Janssen's performance and Hugh Jackman, like both of them acting off each other in this scene is really fucking good. The way that, you know, she's like, yes, it is. It's me, you know, like you don't have to worry. And then like he asks like, what happened to Scott? And she shuts down, you know, she's like, oh God. Oh God. Don't let me kill him. And then he's like, no, what the fuck? No, I won't. Yeah. And then just the shoving him against the wall, everything in the room shaking, like all that. So fucking good. And if at that, and again, there comes a point in this movie where if you pick one or the other, it could be good. You know, like the stuff they did to lay the groundwork for the Dark Phoenix at the beginning of the movie, I don't have much a problem with. It's the fact that we go from that scene, literally from that scene where she goes, don't let me kill anybody again, straight to her house where she kills Professor X. That is the next scene.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, let shit breathe. My goodness, what are we doing here?
Like just not, maybe just like have some destruction, not killing, like just big character. Like maybe her just like wherever she goes, there's just shit. It's fucked. Like I don't know, like her neighborhood.
That, like the idea that she like tore open that room and then just like really politely walked out of the rest of the house,
and nobody
knew. Oh, it was like several minutes before they discovered that Wolverine had like fallen, collapsed, passed out. They're like, "Oh shit, look at Logan!"
Professor X coming in pissed. He's like, "I told you so, you fucking idiot! Like I told you this would happen. What did you do?" He's like, "What did you do?" Like immediately, like just accusing him of everything. And
again, I don't really know what the fuck that was about.
You know, like obviously it was probably Jean, the one that you were suspecting of not being herself anymore and way more powerful than anyone you ever know. But no, it's all Logan's
fault. I woke her up and was like, break bad, Jean, break bad. You know, like,
Jean, you killed Scott. Let's fucking go. Keep going. Like,
exactly. Like, just me and you now. Woo! You know, like, no, like, I don't know. That's one of those things where it's like, what are we doing here? You know, a little bit of, I don't even understand why Charles is even saying something like that in that moment. There's another little, it's a lot of like little X-Men moments that I really, really like, where it's just like, that's satisfying. Whenever Scott is killed and we cut to Charles going, like, he's like emanating a thought, just repeating Scott, and Wolverine, Storm, everyone just immediately bolts to his office. That's cool. You know, like shit like that.
What's wrong?
Like,
I don't know. We just gotta
you know,
check
like
it out.
they just gotta find out. Like that shit. I love shit like that. And it's stuff like that makes me realize they have a decent grasp on what the X-Men are about. So whenever there are these oversights like Magneto's logic kind of collapsing in on itself, and the X-Men's itself, and Charles Xavier saying like, what did you do? Like, what the fuck did I do? What the fuck do you mean by that? Like, I unplugged her and made her get up and walk out of the room. I just let her go. You know, like, I don't know, man. I passed out on the floor here. What do you think I did?
He can tell that Scott's killed on Alkali Lake, but he can't tell that Jean is fucking shit up downstairs in the mansion. You know, like he can't, he couldn't have told, like, you know, and obviously Logan was passed out, thrown against a wall, and like they woke him up, and they're like, "Yeah, Logan, it's all your fault."
So it's just that room that shook, also. Nothing else. Just nothing else is noticed. Nothing. So like, it's just the film's logic kind of collapses in on itself a lot of times, and I can put up with that to an extent. It's just that when it bleeds into the ideals of our characters and their choices starting to kind of not make sense is when I kind of go, okay, well, this is something I can't ignore. And it affects it in both adaptation and critical and enjoyment. Like, whenever you have choices that are affecting all three of those categories, you're kind of fucking up. Like, it's making me like it less, it's making it a worse adaptation, and it's a wrong choice, period. Like, that's...
Yeah.
And there's just too many of those to ignore. So, I come away from this movie with a lot of moments I like a lot, and a lot of stuff that I just do not care for.
Yeah. Another thing I forgot, is his name Angel? Do they just call him to do with the angel wings? I don't know if that's
yes.
what they call him.
Yeah, Angel, that's his...
I don't know, his storyline was actually pretty... It was super small. Like, barely anything.
He was another original X-Men member. Angel.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then... Was he in... Oh, okay. So no, that would have been okay. I'm trying to think of just all the movies. Like, all the movies are just a big conglomerate, and I can barely tell which one's which.
He is also in Apocalypse, and they really they completely disregard this movie for Apocalypse. And I think that's because it's post Days of Future Past, so stuff has changed a lot.
He's in like the fighting rings, and then Apocalypse comes up to him, gives him his metal
like
wings. And, okay. But I thought it was really cool. Like, he's about to get the cure, and he's like, wait, no, I don't like this. And his dad's like, no, it's what we all want. He's like, no, it's what you want. And then he dips. He's like, all right.
Yeah, he's like, fuck it, and then he saves his dad at the end by like swooping in and catching him, and he's like, see, be a mutant, not all bad, huh? I do like the simplicity of that story. I have a little piece of trivia for you.
Ooh.
Let's make it a question of the day, if you will.
Okay.
The young actor who's clipping his wings.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I think I already know.
What hit children's film from the year before
almost
did that child star in?
Top 100. It was so close in my bottom 10, like kids movies, because I love this fucking movie. Yeah. Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Yeah.
It was. I don't know. I love that movie. So whenever I saw him, I was like, oh, God, that's fucking... I forget his name in the movie.
Max.
Just Max. There it is. But yeah, no, I love that movie. It was like right outside my 100 for those top.
I actually immediately recognize him from Dodgeball, funny enough.
He's in Dodgeball?
He's the kid in the video with Patches O'Houlihan, who's like, gee willikers, mister. Thanks for teaching me how to play dodgeball. And he's like painting the fence and stuff. Like, wow. Huh. That's this kid. He had a big run 2004, 5, and 6. Dodgeball, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, X-Men The Last Stand. Caden, I think his name's like Caden Jones or something like that. He went on a run.
Hell yeah.
But, that was a little Shark Boy and Lava Girl crossover there for us. With the kid who played. And that scene like kind of scarred me when I was younger. That shit was like freaky when I was a kid. Like I watched
all the stuff, putting it away. The dad
like
open
all
the door. Bang. Yeah,
Man. Oh man. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that like it's fascinating that this is one of the movies that I came back to so much as a kid because it's so I think it felt so adult when I was younger, so it felt so cool to watch. I was like, whoa, sexy. Whoa, scary. This is awesome. Like, cause whenever Jean like goes Dark Phoenix mode and her face like gets all veiny and her eyes turn black, like that shit's freaky. Like those visuals also fantastic. Like again, the visual effects are brilliant in this movie.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, she was looking pretty creepy. Yeah, I mean, just like her skin cracking, all like every. Oh man, yeah. As a kid, man, yeah, this is a weird one to come back to. I get it for the early Gene scenes, and all, but man, yeah, this one would be kind of freaky as a kid. I don't really have that at all. I didn't really maybe have seen like a couple as a kid, but I mean, I never watch them a lot. I don't know why. Like that's the thing. Like I
Oh, I
watch
fucking
Spider-Man all the
love
time.
the
Like yeah,
X-Men. I love
Batman
the
all the
X-Men.
time. Like I don't know why I never dipped in to the X-Men, but I don't know. All these rewatches, it's making me realize like yeah, there's some things to hate about the movie, but like they're not as bad as everyone makes them
Oh,
out to
dude,
be.
something
Like
that I realized while I was watching this is that like if this of the X-Men titles, like excluding X-Men Origins and like the solo movies with Wolverine and Deadpool,
mhm.
of the X-Men titles, if this is my low point, I quite enjoy this franchise. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's probably between this and Dark Phoenix would be my guess for what my bottom two X-Men movies are. I
Wow.
mean, like
Yeah.
they're fun, you know, at the very least I have a good time watching them, even if they do and I'm excited to get back to Dark Phoenix and talk about it at length, which that'll be forever away. There's no telling how far away that is.
Yeah.
But
That'll be
13 years down the line is certainly nowhere near probably a good 2 years out as far as us covering it. But regardless,
scrolling for quite some time.
yeah,
Yeah. Days of
there's a
Future
lot of
Past.
comic book movies between
That's a
here and then.
Yeah, that's quite some time. That's like March 1st, 2024, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, April 26th. I think these dates are also before we had
Earlier, yeah.
director spotlights that cut it, so it's even up probably a few months after that. And there's Logan, Deadpool 2.
We also do plan on at some point, if we're not doing anything else, starting to double up. Wednesday,
Yeah.
Friday, eventually being like, okay, let's
Would help it speed
move
it
this
along.
along a little bit because there's a lot of comic book movies there.
Dark Phoenix would be September of 2024 before the adjustment. So yeah, probably like
Probably
like
2025.
yeah. So yeah, quite a ways away. But who knows? Maybe if we start doubling up, they'll go.
Yeah, it'll get closer and closer. But no, man, I'm left in a really mixed place with this movie. And mostly not great. But there are these moments, there are times when the stuff I love about the X-Men shines through. And I was watching this movie last night and it like reignited. Like I was like, I'm about to go into an X-Men mode. You know, I'm about to read X-Men comics. I'm about to watch X-Men movies again because if nothing else, it reminded me how much I enjoy the X-Men. And
got me to read
really,
comics.
Really do.
Yeah, it got me to go back into it. So yeah, I'm hopefully, I don't know. I miss reading comics. And that's another thing about comics is that it doesn't matter. Like you can go from one issue to the next, and well, I mean, ones that string together, obviously they have some continuity to them. But then you go to a completely other X-Men story, and it's like it's
you
just
know how many times some of these characters have died. You know, like
yeah, you got to deal with so many characters dying.
That's why, like, whenever it comes to this movie, and they're like, Charles isn't actually dead. Oh, Jean's not actually dead. Oh, Magneto didn't actually lose his power. That's because comic books do that shit all the fucking time, and it does not matter. You know, like, what are we gonna do? Write a Magneto story where he's not fucking Magneto? Like, what? Of course he's Magneto.
No.
Like, it's just not possible to deal with that. Like, but so, like I said, I'll never tire of these movies. And, you know, there are a lot of movies on this list where we talked about them. For this, I will likely never touch those movies again. This is not one of those movies. You know what I'm saying? And I think that kind of frames it in a place where I could, you know, like it makes it look a little better than a lot of other stuff, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I put it in the like our letterbox rating just for all the movies we have so far, and
forgot to add to my ranking.
It's surprisingly it rose like a lot further than I thought it would. I think
let me go ahead and add that here. Tell me in the meantime, where is it on yours? What's above it? What's below it?
For reference, I have X2 and X-Men at 7 and 8. And then this one drops to like 13. It's right above Fantastic Four and Batman 89, but below Batman Returns and Daredevil. I think I'd probably go to like that's what I was kind of debating. Like, would I watch Daredevil before this? That's probably the closest one that I might still put it above. But I think I don't know. Daredevil's pretty sick. I remember watching that one as a kid actually all the time. So yeah, I have it above Fantastic Four, Batman '89, Blade.
All right, I actually need to add Fantastic Four as well.
Yeah, so. I didn't have it. Yeah, they're right next to each other. I got Fantastic Four is 14 and Last Stand is 13.
Oh yeah, and these movies stand out in my mind as like like I said, these were both movies that I came back to a lot as a kid. So they do have a certain kinship in my head. I will say when it comes to like the story itself, I think Fantastic Four is more cohesive. When it comes to enjoyment, I might like watching this one more than I like watching Fantastic Four. That's hard to say. That's where I
arrived. Yeah, I was like, they're really close, and they could probably switch places, but I don't know. I guess I like the X-Men. I guess Fantastic Four, that was a first watch for me. Literally whenever we covered it, and then this is my second, maybe third watch of Last Stand. And I think I'm more into the X-Men than I am Fantastic Four right now. So that's why a little bit above for me. But
yeah, if my ranking is based off of enjoyment, like what movies I will return to, what movies I want to watch, I also have them right back to back, Fantastic Four and X-Men: The Last Stand. And again, in a relatively shocking spot, a place I would not have expected them to be. I have X-Men: The Last Stand at 14, whereas I have X2 at 6 and X-Men at 10. So, four gaps in both 6 to 10, 10 to 14. That's satisfying.
Yeah. I might put Batman '89 above Fantastic Four and Last Stand that I'm looking at.
I have Batman above the last. That Batman's at 13. Fantastic Four is at 15.
That just didn't really look right whenever I was looking at it now. I think, so now it's at
some
14.
Some of the shockers, and again, I want to emphasize that this is enjoyment. The movies that I will come back to. This is certainly not critically, because I have both The Last Stand and Fantastic Four right above Blade, which is undoubtedly better. But I just don't care that much about the Blade movies. I don't come back to them much. And then Batman and Robin is below it. Hulk, Constantine, Elektra. Yeah, no, I think they do belong relatively middle of the list. I've got X-Men: The Last Stand at 14 out of 28.
Like, mine's smack dab in the middle. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
I certainly would not have expected to come away with this thinking it's top half of the movies so far. That's
yeah. And as you said, like Blade, a better made movie, and that it is good, but I'll probably, I don't know, I'll have to be in a very specific mood to watch Blade again. Maybe whenever he comes back in the MCU, who knows? Maybe I'll. Yeah, and
there is a difference there. Like, I've never cared that much about the character Blade. I love the X-Men and I love the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So even in their not so good movies, I enjoy watching those a lot.
Would you rather want a found family or a guy that's just one to kill vampires? It's like,
yeah.
I mean, both are good. Maybe Blade's more of a Halloween movie. That's I don't know, kind of maybe October. Maybe when it starts to get more into spooky season, I'll watch Blade. But I don't know. Last Stand is even. I don't know. I'd rather watch the X-Men movies before. That's for sure.
I think I would too. And that, I think, will bring us to our ratings, which, upon that conversation, kind of placing it somewhere, might make this a little bit more interesting. Because
Blade's at a 7.5.
Blade's at a 7.5.
I don't know if I could say that. Can we say that? Maybe it is a 7.5.
I'm going to tell you right now what the way we were feeling about it straight off. You said it's around Batman. You were debating whether or not you like it as much as Batman. Your gut took you right above Batman. Batman's at 7.75, where Blade's at 7.5. Which means that if it follows suit, enjoyment-wise, important. This is not how good the movie is. It's how good of a time you have watching it. And frankly, like I said, I had a great time watching it. You know, like I had a fun time watching it. 775 would put it on the same plane as Daredevil, as Batman 89. And a 75 would put it on the same plane as Blade
and Blade
Trinity. This is one of those ones that I think, if I was being for real with myself, would find itself right between 7.5 and 7.75, and therein we've just got to go with whichever one feels more right.
I think it's closer to Batman and Daredevil than
I think it is.
to Blade
I think
and
it
Blade
is too.
Trinity. Yeah,
I think I would go 7.75. Which puts it 0.75 above Fantastic Four, enjoyment wise. Don't think we did the comparison game so much with Fantastic Four. We went really from the hip, go with your gut sort of. And if I did that, I probably would have come to about a 7 on this one. But when it comes to the competing game, like I think I would put it more on a 7.75 compared to the rankings that we've done before.
And I don't know. It does have a lot more going for it. Like, it is the third movie in a franchise, while Fantastic Four was just, you know, the opening to one, and there's, you know, a lot to love about that movie, but also a lot that's left to be desired. So I mean, I would go back to Last Stand before I go back to Fantastic.
I think I certainly would as well. Yeah. I certainly would.
Okay.
Genre. This is an interesting one. As far as the action, it's pretty fucking strong. Like I said, the visual effects are really, really good in this movie, and I think that boosts genre more than it does anything else.
Yeah,
I mean, critically,
an action scene whenever Wolverine goes to the jungle and has that bone throwing dude.
Fuck yes,
dude, that was sick. Like,
that was some peak Logan Wolverine ass shit, man. Like that's some Wolverine stuff right there. I love when Wolverine just gets to go feral. And
and Magneto saving Mystique, whenever he just crushes those cars. Like, I thought he was just going to throw them off the road. No. He crushed them first, killed everyone in those cars, and then threw them off the road. And I'm like, holy fuck, this dude just means
not fucking
business.
Around in this movie.
Yeah, like, the action was great. Like, that's even the end battle scene, if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you know, what they're going, like, story-wise, like, action-wise, it was pretty cool.
It's a strong action movie, you know, and that's the thing is that, like, for a strong action movie to be truly great, it does have to narratively be cohesive.
Yeah. Can't just have fights for fight's sake.
For fight's sake. And I would say the fights for fight's sake were super cool. We gave X-Men a 7.5 in genre, X2 an 8 in genre, and I don't think it touches either of those. I think we're looking somewhere between a 6 and a 7 on this one.
Okay. So that would be Batman, Blade 2, Howard the Duck, Elektra, and Constantine from there up. I think
I would have to go lower than Constantine. I think I would have to go lower than 7. I think Elektra 6.75 might be more what we're looking at. Like it had the maybe 6.5. I think 6.5 might actually be where I end up coming down.
That would tie with Howard the Duck and Blade 2.
Yeah,
all wildly different movies.
Blade 2, Howard the Duck, and X-Men: The Last Stand. They all stand about the same place within their genre.
Exactly what I was thinking coming out of this movie was just. Man, this feels like Howard the Duck.
So akin to Howard the Duck. No, that's great. Adaptation. It's a real mixed bag here. More bad than it is good, so that doesn't help. These two, adaptation and critical, is where this rating is going to get absolutely railed.
X-Men, that's at a 6. X2 was at a 7.5. Yeah, it doesn't.
We punished X-Men for basically getting Rogue wrong.
Okay.
That was basically all there was that made us go, not that great an adaptation.
Is this middle of the road?
It's a bad adaptation. Like this is a less, because they're trying the Dark Phoenix storyline, bro. It's a big fucking swing, and if you're gonna take that swing, you do what needs to be done for the Dark Phoenix.
And even the Cure storyline wasn't
which they did not do well, and they mischaracterized Magneto. I think that they did a lot of bad stuff
Yeah, and Professor X even too, like screaming at Wolverine there, or Logan in the basement there was a little off, and yeah, there were.
I think adaptation wise, we might be looking at a 3.
Supergirl would be
maybe a 3.5.
In between Constantine and Supergirl, right in the middle.
Like I said,
it's not good. It's not good.
No, like I said, there are a lot of moments where I'm like, they show that they have that capacity to understand the characters that they are adapting, and then it all just kind of folds in on itself, and it just. I think the thing that really hurts it is that it is very specifically adapting to really good storylines.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not doing either of them justice. And then on top of that, you go and make Magneto feel wrong. That's gonna be tough, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like a 3.5. I think that's a little bit above Supergirl, but because that, man, looking back at that movie, that was just wild.
It's a pretty bad adaptation.
That was wild.
Just the idea that she doesn't come from Krypton. She comes from inner space, which is actually inside of the Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the villain's
bold.
just a
bold swing.
With that just a lot of
at least everything in this movie was still based in comic books.
Yeah. It has that going for it. But all
and again, it does have its moments where it shows. I think that it has an honest understanding of Wolverine for the most part. I think that it has a pretty great understanding of Storm as she stands within this movie. Mm-hmm. And even Magneto has his flashes, but it's just like when it comes to Mystique, and then him being like, "Let's use the cure on the other mutants," like. That's bad, dude. Like, that's not good. And I'm comfortable with a 3.5. I think that's accurate.
All right. Now, critically, I'd say story wise, has one thing going for it, but the VFX and like visually how it looks, I think it gives it
VFX
a little bit of a boost.
Oh, it absolutely deserves a boost based on VFX, and I think it deserves a boost on performances. I think without the visual effects and without the performances of this movie, it is absolutely nothing. There's nothing here. I think that they did a good job with some character design stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that Beast looks awesome. I think this is like, if you're going to adapt Beast, you fucking nail it here. This is pitch perfect. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was sick. And just his action too was really awesome. His diplomats, like, diplomas. Wow, that's a word there. But just him being a senator and then him actually fighting, like just both sides of it. I don't know. Beast was really cool.
The Secretary of Mutant Affairs. Yeah, like let's see. We gave X-Men an 8. We gave X2 an 8.25. It is not even fucking close to those. No. We gave Daredevil a 6. I'd argue it's not even fucking close to that. We gave Blade a 5.5, and it's not that good either. Let's see. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, we gave a 4 out of 10. If we gave that a 4 out of 10, I think this is gotta get at least a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, it's above 4. I'd maybe argue that Elektra is better made. Like a better made.
I think I would. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's at a 4.75. So it's in between 4 and 4.75.
I think the story of Elektra, like that again, that's a huge fucking part. Is if the story, story doesn't wrap itself up. It's like they chose a point to stop and then go, but everything ended up okay.
Yeah.
That's a horrendous way to tell a story. I think I'd be comfortable at a 4.25.
Yeah, it's closer to Superman 4 than it is Elektra. That's
100%.
Yeah, and I think that is nice there. 4.25. Okay. What does that round it out? A 5.5?
55%, which does put it below Constantine. Puts it below Elektra.
Wow, Fantastic Four was a 5.75 overall.
There you go.
So
puts it below Blade Trinity, puts it above Catwoman.
Below Elektra. Okay.
Ties it with Blade 2 exactly.
Yeah,
puts it just below Batman and Robin.
Yeah, the adaptation on this one really hurts it. That's for sure.
And it actually puts it below Superman 4: The Quest for Peace and Howard the Duck. It puts it above Batman 66, above Superman 3, and Supergirl.
Yeah, it's above Batman 66, Superman 3, Supergirl, and Catwoman. It's the fifth.
Tied for bottom 5.
Yeah.
With Blade 2. All right. And that feels right. You know, that does feel right. I'm glad that the rating ended up reflecting that more than what I felt like it was going to. I felt like we were being really nice to it, but it absolutely is bottom 5 quality.
Yeah. Enjoyment and genre was really the only thing it had a chance to be like kind of good in, you know, and so I think, I think it shakes out pretty well. And like enjoyment wise, I mean, I'm definitely watching this before Blade 2, before Batman and Robin, before Superman 4, probably. Like, I will go back to this movie before any of those, most likely, but as far as how the story went, it is just kind of rough to have to deal with that at the end. So, yeah, I think 5.5 is fair.
All right, yeah, I was like, if half the movie is pretty good,
then
a 5.5 feels pretty good, you know? Yeah, that feels pretty accurate, but yeah, with that, I think we will conclude this episode of the Penny Bloom podcast with X-Men The Last Stand shaking out to a 5.5. Let's see what the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes might have to say about it. I'll do IMDb. It actually has it a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb.
Okay. Wow.
It's a little kinder than I would have anticipated.
Good old tomato meter. The audience gives it a 61, and the critics give it a 57. So...
We are very rarely meaner than everything, and I felt like we were very forgiving of this movie. That's astonishing to me. I was not expecting that.
People trash on this movie so much. Like what's all the? Is it just talk? Is it just people that like don't really like haven't seen the movie in a while and just want a movie to trash on or something like that? Or what's going on there?
I mean, I don't know if we're looking at the bottom 2 of the X-Men and they both end up being above a 5, I'll be pretty happy with that. Origins Wolverine, there's no fucking way it'll be above a 5.
There. Man, I can't wait to see this.
That one's a little closer. That one's not too far away because I think that was 2009. And we're 2006 right now. So it's right around the corner.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah. October 2023 is whenever.
Okay, we're just a couple months away.
October. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, especially if we pause for Scorsese.
I can't just look at the calendar, which I do have all of that on there.
If we pause for Scorsese.
First class? Oh no, it's December 22nd is whenever it's currently scheduled.
Merry Christmas. So. Let's talk the worst shit ever.
Hell yeah. Let's go. On Christmas Day, we have Game of Thrones finale of season 6. So that's kind of cool.
Hey, Winds of Winter. Merry Christmas. Here's Cersei blowing up the Sept, baby. No, that is a Merry Christmas. Yeah. That is a Merry Christmas. I'll take it. No, that's funny, man. But yeah, with that, we will conclude this episode of the Penny Bloom podcast. If you would, head to patreon.com/pennybloom-pod where you'll find over 50 hours of exclusive content. For $3 a month, you can support this podcast financially, which is huge because it costs me money and I don't make any off of it unless it is over there. Head to Twitter, follow at PennyBloomPod, follow on Instagram and Threads at PennyBloomPodcast. Remember to leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening and continue to download. Thank you so much. August is on a fucking roll right now, and I'm so appreciative of everybody who's listening and downloading. If this is your first time here, thank you for joining us, and remember to come back next week for the comic book movie Journey Through Film, where we are back in DC mode. It's been a little bit, we had Batman Begins a couple weeks back, but we're back to Superman, which it's been a long time since we did a Superman movie. It's Superman Returns. And I'm so very, very excited about that. Yeah, February. February was our last Superman movie. So
Wow.
been a long
That has
time
been a
coming.
while. We got 2 in a
6
row.
months.
Yeah, we got Superman Returns and then the Donner Cut right after. So
Yeah, the Donner Cut. Yes, we got some Superman
nice.
coming up. Excited to dig into some reading nothing but Superman and X-Men for the next couple weeks, and that's going to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited for that. But yeah, we got that going on, and then next week we also continue our Game of Thrones rewatch podcast, Winter is Blooming, on Monday. That will bring us season 5, episode 2, which I'm very excited to get to. And then we continue our top 100 favorite movies ever next Wednesday with part 5, and that'll be the 50s, 50 through 59. We've already got 4 parts out, 100 through 60. Those are so much fun. We're talking a bunch of great movies, nothing but our favorite movies of all time. So go ahead and check that out. Remember to support SAG-AFTRA and WGA and their struggle against the studios. You know, even though it results, writers can make movies like The Last Stand and X-Men Origins Wolverine. They can also make movies like Logan and First Class and Days of Future Past and X2. You know, no matter what, good or bad, if you worked on something, you used your labor, you put work into it, you deserve to be compensated fairly. You know, I watched X-Men The Last Stand. Can you watch X-Men The Last Stand on Disney Plus?
Mm-hmm. That's where I did.
Is that nobody got paid for that? Hardly anything, you know? Hardly anybody got a cent off that from you. And that's the thing, is that like they deserve to be getting paid. They deserve to be getting paid a little bit based off that. And I think that's only fair.
Not a check for literally $0. You know, that some people are getting for residuals. So it's nuts. But
just a damn shame that the studios don't want to pay the people that work for them and continue to profit off their likeness. And that fucking sucks. That's some real supervillain shit, you know, talking comic book movies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with that, I was Colton Robertson and I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And oh, my stars and garters.